Long ago, in the city of Krakow, there lived a poor tailor called Jakov ben Jakov. No matter how hard Jakov worked, he could never make enough money to take care of his family, to put enough food on the table, enough wood in the stove to keep them warm. And he couldn't earn enough money to fix the leak in the roof. And so Jakov did the only thing he could think of. He went to the temple and he prayed for a miracle. And that night, Jakov had a magnificent dream. In his dream, he was walking through the streets of Prague, a city he had never been before. But in his dream, he knew this place. Every building and every street was familiar. It was so real. He could even smell the smells of cooking, chicken fat and onions and cabbage. And as he walked through the streets, he turned a certain corner and came to a certain place. And there he took a shovel from his pack in his dream and he began to dig. And then a voice came. Jakov ben Jakov, go to Prague. There is something there for you. And then he woke up. The next night, the same dream. He was walking through the streets of Prague. He knew his way. It was all familiar. He smelled the smells. He came to the place. He took out his shovel and he began to dig. And again the voice, Jakov ben Jakov, go to Prague. There is something there for you. He woke up. And again, the third night, the same dream. Walking through the streets of Prague, coming to the place, beginning to dig, and again the voice, Jakov ben Jakov, go to Prague. There is something there for you. And then he woke up. He went to his family and he said, I have had this dream 3 nights in a row. I must go to Prague. He kissed his wife. He hugged his children and he set off on the long road to Prague. He walked and he walked and he walked through wind and snow and sleet and rain until finally he came to the beautiful city of Prague. And he was astonished to see that Prague looked exactly like it did in his dream. He knew the streets. He walked through the streets and came to the place where in his dream he dug. He took the shovel from his pack and he began to dig. A heavy hand landed on his shoulder. It was a very big hand, and it belonged to a very big man. It was a guard of the city. What are you doing here? Jakov was terrified, so he said the only thing he could think of, the truth. I am digging here because I had a dream. Because you had a dream? You look like a dream. And the guard smacked him upside the back of the head. Thin, sickly, weak. Dreams are for fools. I too had a dream a night or 2 ago, and in my dream a voice came to me and said, Ivan, go to the city of Krakow, to the miserable little hut, a hovel of a tailor, Yankel or Yakel or something, and dig beneath his stove. There is treasure buried there. But you don't see me going to Krakow. No, that's because it was a crazy dream. Dreams are for fools like you. Now go. And he sent Jakov away. Jakov had to walk the long way back to his home in Krakow. And when he got there, his family rushed out to greet him. Their prayers had been answered. He had returned home safely. He kissed his wife and hugged his children. And though he was tired, he went to the stove and he moved it aside. He took the shovel from his pack and he began to dig. He dug and he dug and he dug, and what he found was dirt. Exhausted, he fell into bed and he slept. And while he slept, his children did what children do. They jumped into the hole and they played. And they too began to dig. It was his youngest daughter who found something that looked like an old soup pot, and with her brothers and sisters they dug it up and brushed it off and took it over to their father. With his strong hands he pried it open. Inside it was filled with gold, a fortune, enough to put plenty of food on the table, enough to put wood in the stove to be warm, enough for warm coats, and enough to do something Jakov had always wanted to be able to do, to give to the poor. Jakov lived a long and a good life, and towards the end of his days, he found that he only had one gold coin left. He decided to give it to a beggar, and when he dropped the coin in the beggar's outstretched hand, the beggar looked up and said, "Thank you, and for you I have 2 words of advice." "Advice for me?" said Jakov. "2 words," said the beggar. "Dig deeper." Jakov went home. Once again he moved the stove aside and took out his shovel, and he began to dig. He dug deeper than he had ever dug in his life before. And he came to a metal box. When he opened it, he saw that it was filled with glittering diamonds and rubies and emeralds, sapphires, a fortune. Enough to live out the rest of his days in comfort and generosity, and enough to build a house of study at a crossroads, a place where 2 roads meet, a place where travelers could rest, reflect on where they had been and where they were going to. Legend has it that this house of study still exists. You will know you have arrived there when you read the letters written in gold above the door. Sometimes you must travel very far to follow your dreams, to find that which is closest to your heart.